For the computer. Hello, everybody. Hey, Anya, how you doing?
Hey, I'm okay. I'm having a bit of a riding the wave day, as I like to call it. But yeah, all good. How are you?
Today I'm doing really well. Yeah, it's been a wavy ride for me too. I'd say the last few days, probably this whole last week.
Yeah, yeah. It's been real nervous system overdrive for me. I'm struggling with my nervous system at the moment. Yeah, for sure. I don't really have much words on it. I think I'm still processing the experience of the week, of the day, of the emotions. So I'm still kind of in that middle ground of figuring out what it means, what I'm being told, what my body's communicating, what these emotions are surfacing, what that is representing within on an emotional and spiritual level. Because I think it makes it easier to deal with this stuff because we have that awareness and knowing. But it doesn't make it, it still doesn't make it easy. It's still difficult and it's still turbulent. And I always feel that sometimes the deeper you do get into your spiritual journey, the harder the challenges actually are that come. You're just more equipped to deal with them. So it is still the same level of intensification as when you first started healing, if that resonates for anyone, because I always think like, why is it not getting easier? Which the way I deal with it gets easier, but the feeling does not sometimes. Like it still feels really overwhelming, really intense, really difficult to manage and deal with and live with. And I kind of think, why am I still there sometimes? And I came to the conclusion that because we are getting to deeper layers of the onion, that we are experiencing deeper wounds, which have such a deeper hurt and pain. And if you were to face that, for me, it would have been like 10, 12 years ago in my healing journey when I started. There's no way I could have even remotely looked at what I'm dealing with now. And so there is an evolutional process. There is a deep expansion in the healing journey. It's just, it's okay to still struggle with it, to still not sometimes know what you're doing because this is the first time you face this level, this layer, this depth of that emotion, of that wound. And so of course you don't know what you're doing, just like you didn't know what you're doing the first time you even consciously started doing the healing work, because we are constantly evolving and learning. And I think I need to remember that too sometimes.
That's a really grand reminder. It's for everybody. Everybody down here, it's these waves, whether they admit it or they don't admit it. I would have to say this last week was probably the highest level of intensity and surrender that I had to work with. Where I was
Maybe
like,
that's why I'm struggling.
I was like, oof, I don't know. I don't know anything about my business. I don't know where all the peeps around me are. Like, it was just another level of, are you going to open yourself up to more expansion? Like, do you have the capacity to do that? And I do feel like this is a capacity. You have a capacity, you have a little bit more knowledge of how to work with these. But the more you expand, even for me in consciousness, the more of those types of skill sets expand, and then you just hit another piece of yourself. And so these pieces of yourself, like, have been running around for a hot second, and they're the ones that you've most run away from.
All right.
Right? And you're like,
Calm down.
ah, that's a whole nother.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's for sure. And yeah, I resonate with that deeply. I don't know. I think I'm a little bit thrown off because it was like a real deep wave a few weeks ago, and I was real in the trenches. And then I came back up for air, and so I was like, "All right, it's going to calm down now for a little bit." No, bitch, right back in. And I just think I just didn't. I wasn't prepared for this next new level. And it is even remotely interest. I didn't mean remotely. It's interesting to see how the difference is from Tuesday to Thursday from this week, because Tuesday nights I run a session. So obviously I don't get much time to do the spiritual work at the moment because I've got two babies under two, one's 3 months old. So I don't have much time to, sit there and meditate and channel in and do the things I used to do. So on these Tuesday night sessions are my like reflection time. And on Tuesday, I was reflecting on this energy that we're talking about. But the perspective I had was very much more optimistic and more on a higher perspective. And then since Tuesday night, it feels like I've been thrown another wave Wednesday and Thursday. And again, just like you say, that real level of intensification, just constant testing without the time to rest my nervous system. And that's what I'm really struggling with, that lack of rest of nervous system. And obviously, I know it's messages, communication, things that I need to be doing, changing. But I'm not going to lie, sometimes I'm just like, give me a break, please. Just give me a break.
Yeah.
Just give me like a few days just to breathe, you know. That's where I'm at right now. I'm like, I get there's an expansion to come, and I'm grateful for all the lessons and all the growth. But I'm also just really tired, and not even physically tired. I'm just so drained, and I just feel kind of really pushed to my limits at the moment. And, I know there's other people feeling that too. And then there's other people on the other end of the spectrum, which are on a really high, positive, optimistic, joyful vibration. And I think that's wonderful because we need the yin to the yang. And maybe them scales will rebalance in their own ways, and the collective will shift in its own right to support each other. But yeah, like we were saying before I came on, it is important to be authentic in what we're experiencing whilst we're experiencing it, even doing the job we do. It's difficult for me to translate that when I'm processing it, but I'm doing my best. Give it a go.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's it right there. It's really getting raw and real. And I would have to say for me and where I'm at, I'm not in these all these places channeling because again, that's always there. Like that's an internal knowing that I have, even though like I viscerally see the things and I'm walking it as I do.
Mhm.
Like for me, this has been a very physical, like stand in your truth, speak it regardless, right? It doesn't matter. Make sure you're holding your own frequency wherever you're at. And even if that is at the feeling of the lowest or the darkest point, like I'm going to walk that in front of people. Like I'm just going to hold who I am no matter where I'm at. And for me, that's been a lot of
Mhm.
truth speaking too. Like, yeah, no, this is happening. I'm taking full accountability for myself in this space right now. And walking that no matter what falls in and around me or is what anybody else is doing.
Yeah, yeah, I do struggle with that because I think because I am I was is whatever the word is, a projector back when I used to have no regulation of my emotions, and so I really worked on not projecting. I really worked on dealing with it, and not putting it on anybody, not expecting anybody to fix it, not
For sure.
expecting anyone to deal with my emotions, and but I think I don't quite know where the line is between not projecting and not expressing my own emotions,
Sure.
and like people pleasing to suit other people because I know
Yep.
a lot of the time it is too much, my emotions. And like we were saying before I came on, it is in no disrespect to anybody, but it is difficult when people don't have the emotional skills. And that's no disrespect to anyone because there's a lot of love around me. It's just sometimes because people are dealing with their own stuff and they're at a certain level. And I've dived really deep into understanding psychology and the human brain and
Yep.
emotional healing and spiritual healing. And so I don't expect people to share the same level of conscious awareness that I do. But sometimes I struggle to lean on anybody because it feels like it's too much. It feels like my emotions, my needs, my requests are always at an inconvenient time or too large of a, and I don't know, it just feels like a burden. And I don't know if that's a me thing or whether it's a not having the right environmental support thing or whether it's a bit of both. Um, I don't know. I'm still figuring that out, but
100%.
yeah, I'm still figuring the navigational waves of that.
I feel like, yeah, that's my story too. That's my story of going, hey, what am I reacting to right now? How do I want to react to it? Do I take space to, flow in my own emotion? And again, like right now I'm doing that in art, but I do have to say the last at least this last week, it's been setting strong boundaries, walking that pathway,
Yeah.
making sure that my truth is being spoken, but also like it's not out to project. It's there to speak a truth and say, here's also an invitation, of
Yeah.
what that is. And if you want to talk about it, that's okay too. I'm here for that.
Hmm.
And holding space in a way that doesn't give or the people pleaser comes out or being able to support in the appropriate way and having the allowance of people support me. And that's also been one
Hmm.
of those as well. I noticed this last week where I'm like, how much can I receive in that? And I have to ask my body, like, does that feel like you can receive that right now? And sometimes it is, and sometimes it's like, I just would rather take care of this myself. Okay. That's fine.
Yeah. And that's kind of a me thing most of the time. I'm not gonna lie. I felt it shift physically when I had Sky in February because I knew having a toddler that was 17 months old and three dogs, four cats, all the things going on. I knew that there wouldn't be as much of the physical support as I needed that time. So I think it was important to ask for that and make sure that that was physically like received in them first couple of weeks after having Sky. And I definitely felt that. I definitely felt the shift from being able to receive from having Phoenix to having Sky. There was a lot more of an openness to receiving support the second time round. But I suppose in the overall, it just, yeah, I don't find it an easy thing to do. And I also don't think it's because it isn't an easy thing to do. There isn't that support and awareness around me to be able to do that. So I do think it is one of them things where sometimes it is you just have to deal with it on your own. You just have to, spend that time, and whether you use plant medicine, whether you use meditation, I mean, years ago, I found a therapist, a hypnotherapist. I don't often find they align with me, but this lady really did, and she was awesome. She was really cool. She was called Sarah. She was so cool, and she taught me so much about like the human brain, and I needed that because I was all in the woo woo world, all in spiritual, but struggling so much to translate that into being a human, and struggling with anxiety, panic attacks, overthinking, panic thinking. I was struggling to like leave the house without overwhelming anxiety at that time. And so being there for them 2 years, I used to go like every couple of weeks. And that really helped me reflect externally. She'd ask me questions that I knew the answer to, but I'd never thought to ask myself them questions. And the way she worded it, the way she helped me to see it and translate it, then she'd use different techniques to subconsciously clear out what she called hypnosis, what I would call guided, same thing. It's the same thing as what I do, but just a different name. And it was so interesting because then I expanded them techniques into my own as well. And I understood what she was talking about from a psychological perspective. Obviously, I'd done a criminological degree as well. So I had that bit of background knowledge of terminology to translate it into my own interpretation through the spiritual as well, which it really helped me. And getting that external support at that time and being open to that was hugely needed. And it really helped with my anger regulation and, regulation techniques and overwhelm and not being burnt out and not having them mental and physical burnouts that I was experiencing. She really helped me remove that overwhelming physical suffering. And so I'm really grateful for that. And I always recommend finding someone that vibrationally aligns with you, because I'd been to a couple before that, and I'm not going to lie, I feel like they actually damaged me more. So it is really important that you find someone that is vibrationally aligned and that fits what you need. A lot of the time in England in the NHS, when they refer you, it's very tick boxes, you get this amount of time, 6 weeks, with someone who's barely trained, no offense, this is my experience. And you don't always get what you need. You get like a generalized anxiety therapy, whereas I needed 2 years of counseling, so it was totally different from what I needed, from what I received. And, I did have to go private to get what I received, but in Power of Universe at that time, I was seriously financially struggling, and she was only like £50 a session, but I couldn't even afford to make that. And I'd missed a few sessions. And she said to me, I'll give you a discounted rate for now until you can afford to pay the full rate. And literally for about 6 months while I was in that situation, she accepted a discounted payment of like £35 per session. And she said, I'd rather you come at a discounted rate than not get the help that you need. And that just shows you how the universe really has your back sometimes. Like I needed to go there really bad and I could not afford it. And so she recognized that, and she offered a universal exchange of love. And she said, I so love seeing you. You're a little spark of light and energy. And so I did see it as a little bit of an exchange in some way, because she said a lot of the experiences she were having didn't have that joy and light, and even though I wasn't feeling joyful, but obviously my energy was nice for her. And so it was a nice little exchange, and I'm forever grateful of that energy exchange at that time and what I gained from that. So definitely considering external support, whether that's your support network, like I said, plant medicine, meditation, therapy, whatever it looks like to you.
Yep.
Retreat, I don't know, a lot of things are sometimes worth the investment in self.
Oh, totally, totally. I can't even tell you how many times I've either spent a lot on a coach or a therapist for a small amount of time, just specifically to what I needed, or something to work with my body mechanics. Like, and it's always a very beautiful process to be like, hey, and this is the thing that I'm telling everybody right now, to step back and say like, hey, sometimes we need help, and that's
Hmm.
okay. Those are constructs that we got to break down right now. And I have to say that for myself. Yes, sometimes I absolutely do need some help. Like,
Hmm.
and my body needs some help. And so I let my body navigate what type of help do you need in this situation? And it likes
Yeah.
connections. Like, I like my friend connections. I like the people that I've worked with. I've liked the therapists that I've worked with and the coaches that I've worked with, who have just popped in for a moment to be like, hey, I'm going to give you a balance here just to see where you're at. But they've given me the space to figure it out. That's another thing I
Yeah.
appreciate about the people
Hmm.
I've been with.
And that's the thing, we need that space.
Yep, yep, for sure. And I have a huge background in science, and I have to say I really appreciate that I have that grounding point there.
Mm.
I'm not just in biological sciences and anatomy and in psychology. And I don't, that's a formality. I don't give a shit that I have them, but I'm
No,
glad,
I agree.
you
But
know.
it helps. Like it does. I'm not gonna lie, like I never really I was told my choosing act the other day, and I've been on that choosing act group for nearly 3 years, and none of them knew I had a degree. I was laughing. I was like, that's so funny because I don't ever talk about it. I literally
Right,
went for three
right.
years. I studied criminological science, and before that, I did criminology and law and child development and ethics and psych and physiological philosophy. And so I definitely delved in the academic world. I was searching for answers as a
Totally,
16-year-old girl. I was like,
totally.
something's not right here. Let's investigate, and I was
Dive.
looking for answers, and I found so much, I found so much information. Criminology was a fantastic degree. I don't recommend university propaganda. There is a lot of it, there's
Oh,
a
I
lot
know.
of propaganda. I'm choosing to homeschool my children, so I'm not necessarily recommending
Right.
the academic schooling way. However, I definitely think I took the best out of a system that was not designed to benefit us. I took some great stuff out of it. I love to learn. I did music, graphic design, art, I did food cooking technology. I created a lot of things, and I was able to create things, and I loved drama, performing arts, everything like that. That was all my shebang. So I did all of that at school, and then into sixth form, I did the other things, the psychological things and the learning about the world. And then at uni, it was really a case of learning about me, learning about the world, and learning what was my truth. And I definitely feel like the criminology degree was a perfect place to do that because it questions sociology, psychology, nature versus nurture, why people commit these heinous things, because obviously it's based on crime. And wow, such a fascinating degree. I'd always had a fascination with criminals and the criminological mind and why people commit these serious offences and what makes that pattern change in the brain. And so I was phenomenally interested, and I thoroughly enjoyed my degree deeply, every part of it. I'm not going to lie, it was wonderful. But I came out of it knowing I cannot work in that world. No
Yep.
way. There was not a chance. And I came out of it like, thank you for such wonderful knowledge and education and expansion and knowing about myself and knowing my truth, because they taught me so much about their own system being corrupt. We had a whole module on corruption in the police and corruption in the system, like where they taught us to question the system, question statistics, question the death penalty, question. Wow, it was like, I had the most wonderful, wonderful time there. And I definitely don't regret going. And every day in my job, when I am connecting in doing that more regularly, it is something that I use all the time, is the psychological programmings. But it wasn't until I came out of university and then I went into tarot card reading. And everyone was like, what the fuck? She just done a criminology degree, now she's been a tarot card reader. But I got the answers in the criminology degree that I got so many there, but I was still thinking,
Uh,
why do those people that have been raised lovely and nice and kind and all these things, why do they do these things? I could not understand it. I was like, hang on a minute, like, what's going on here? And I never got the answers in criminology. They kind of just said, well, people do it. There is no one answer. It is what it is. There's multiple answers. And so I was like, yeah, but that does not tick my box. And so when I went into spirituality, I figured that there was so much on possession, demons, darkness, low vibrational energy. And I was like, oh, damn, this is the missing box. I was like, if only I could bring this module in on my criminology degree because it would so answer so much. Like there was all these theories about why people commit crime, but please add that one in because I'm telling you, these people that tell you someone else told them to do it and they don't have memory of it, they might not be lying. Let me just say that, you know, and I've really learned, wow, the connections between some of the cases I studied and that non-conscious awareness and almost a possession, you know, and they actually said that. Sometimes they mention demons and darkness and entities and da 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 da. And yet obviously it's laughed at and diminished. And, you know, even going back to Abraham Lincoln's shooting, which was a hypnosis, there was MK Ultra, you know, and so much that we miss in that criminology degree that I got answers for in the spiritual world too. So yeah, long story short, the combination of all of that knowledge for me just provides such an expansive place for the mind to gain so much more information. And that's why I think learning, questioning, finding what resonates, getting rid of what doesn't is so important. Don't be afraid to delve into things, even if they are the mainstream. Take what you need, take what you like, and then get rid of what you don't.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I really appreciate you saying that. And it was when I remember in this body when I was little and I would see all the demonic stuff and I always had
Mm.
cute little protectors by me and I would like it wouldn't bother me. It was like just a normal part of my reality. I just like walked in every day like whatever, this is a normal place
Hey,
here.
y'all.
Like going into school and college and like I loved science so much. I love the facets of science. I got, you know, in chemistry, physiology, all those things that I loved in that and bringing that into the world. Right after I got out of school, I was like, so that was a short bleep in my experience. And now, like,
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for that, but I'm done now.
thanks for that. I appreciate it. It gave me a good understanding of certain facets of it. And then I knew that I wasn't going to be staying there. That wasn't my, I was like, you know, as a tiny bleep, and then I went into my death processes, and I was like, oh yeah. So then the shaman came out, and it was a whole nother story. But where I actually did
Right?
do depossessions a lot. That was like my specialty. I like jumped right into that.
Really? I love
All
that.
right, here we go. I'm gonna, yeah, it just did it. Like it was
Yeah,
normal to me. It was a normal facet to me. I had like
yeah.
so many clients come in with that piece, and I have to say, from my experience in that, at that moment in time while I was doing that over and over again, it was so real, right down to a T. Like where I
Mm. Oh
had,
man.
oh yeah, like this the deepness of it, where these guys would come up and like, you know, they'd be tell all kinds of things about myself that you'd try to get on, and I'd be like. But I'm not scared by you. And like, so sometimes they had to have help because, you know, people would need some help being, so I stayed here.
Yeah, you know, it's you know, it's very true, and I think it's one of them. Like, it's like if you know, you know. If you ain't a demon fighter, you don't know. You know, like I'm really sorry. It's just one of them things. Like it is a little club. Like if you've been through it, because it's like, imagine what do you do for a living? I used to remember when people asked me that question, I'd be like, I fight fucking demons, mate. But like, how do you even
For
say
real.
that to someone?
How do you say it? Like,
Well,
I'm a demon slayer up in
yeah,
here, and I don't know what else to tell you, but that's
yeah.
basically what that is. So,
Literally. And after going that for me it was going to Morocco that helped. I was doing it a long time before but had no idea what I was doing, like no conscious awareness of that process and all them things. And then after I went to Morocco and learned about the earth angel transformation, as I call it, what I translated that as, that next level, that game, because I knew my power then and I knew what I was capable of and I knew how to do it. And then I was tested so many times, and there is actually nothing on earth that could convince me that that stuff was not real. Actually,
yeah,
nothing on earth. You know,
yep, yep,
the experiences were so valid. And so when you've been through that and when you come through the other end, because it is seems to be that, like you say, it was such a prolific job for a while. And for me, it was part of the physical job, like when I'd work online, but it was also just like a everyday, as you say, like going out and about, clearing this, clearing this, clearing that place,
it's
clearing
like
this.
candy. It's everywhere.
Like, yeah, everywhere, like non-stop, you know, like anywhere we go on a day out, any shop we're going to, any cafe we go for,
Yep,
oh my
yep,
God, the
yep.
symbols
Like
there, there's
just everywhere.
everywhere, you know. And so it really has calmed down that aspect, I feel. You know, I don't feel like when I need to go somewhere, it's like I get a message, oh, you need to go here now and clear that place. Whereas
Right.
before, it was just like everywhere I was going, you know. What about when I picked you up from airport and then stopped for a wee at that Masonic Hall and we was like, hold it, hold it.
Like, yeah, that sounds about right. I have a lot of experience with
Yeah,
it.
that was
So,
so, my little pregnant self was like, really right now? Like, are we really doing this right now? But that's
Like,
the
yeah,
thing.
let's
It's
go.
yeah, all the time,
Right.
all the time. And, if we had told the stories of the experiences, they are so real, like visions, literally walking through places astrally, but like I am physically doing it,
Body.
and sometimes
Yep.
physically doing it and experiencing it, all the different aspects, as you'll know. But yeah, it's a very lonely and isolating world. I'm not going to lie, because you can't really talk to people about it. They don't understand and they're quite afraid. And they'll could potentially send you to lunatic. So we can't also do that. There is a lot of things
Right.
that they
There's
do, and
a lot of hush hush
you
in that space. And for me,
know,
I worked with several different shamanic aspects at that time, teachers that came in, and that was just their realm. That was there
yeah,
was like
yeah.
not anything different there. And honestly, before I had met them, when I went through my own death process and my body came back a few times,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah,
we would just get together and look at that and do work like that. And so it was very much so a home base for me to be in that space. But I do know, even with one of my teachers and her, there's this wonderful story that I have. I was hosting a group and I had one of my teacher's daughters in the space, and we were going around the room and we were doing drumming work. It was very deep, and somebody like had an entity attached and something like that. And everybody saw it, and everybody scattered, including her. And I was the only one in the room, and I was like, "All right, let's do this."
oh my
I was
god.
like, "All
It's
right."
just like you left the last one standing, aren't you?
I'm
And
like,
it's always like, really? Okay,
okay,
okay, we're
right?
doing
Like
this now.
seriously, like you've been doing this ever since you're. It's fine, it's fine. So I went in there and shifted the frequency, and I did the work in and around that, and got him back because he was gone for a good period of time, and like everybody comes back in, and I was like, so,
How y'all doing?
everybody doing right now, And so these are just experiences that I have, and I always have deeper experiences. It's always been one of mine where I'm like, I don't speak about it, and guess what? Like
Yeah,
here we are talking about it because that is an aspect of my experience and I totally own it and like it's very visceral and I have shared experiences in it. It's not just me.
yeah. No, no, it's not just you. It's not just me as well. And
Exactly.
it's always funny that when we're together, it's always like, oh, okay, here we go again. And I must admit, going through it, I did have a close friend that we're not really close now. We don't really speak. But when I went through my awakening journey, she was probably the only person that shared knowledge and resonance and the ability to somewhat stand next to me through the flames. Sometimes she'd be like, listen, I'm too scared, I'm out, and she'd run off. But most of the time, she would face it with me and stand next to me and face it together, and it was nice. And then working again with you after I'd been working again on my own for so long is nice. I'm not gonna lie, it feels like you have backup, like you're not just facing this lower frequency energy alone. And I'm never really frightened, like you say, but sometimes it is a bit overbearing and it can bring out your own shadows in terms
Yeah.
of what you're afraid of and manifest into that form. And like you say, I don't talk about it either because we don't ever want to bring in that frequency also, because once we've cleared it, it's gone and you don't kind of bring that back in. And that's part of the work that we do. But for some reason, it has come up tonight. And maybe it's important to also talk about that if you are someone that feels lower frequencies in people, in places, and feel drawn to working with removing that, then this might be a reflection of knowing that you're not on your own there, and there is a lot of other people out there doing that too. And I'm sure there's so many of us doing that because there's a lot of earth angels here on earth. And yeah, I definitely created a thing, a transformational process, as I call it, for a conscious recognition of that ability. And for me, that was like, if I'd have been given this years ago, it would have saved so many attacks, as I call them, and potential attacks that I could have avoided by having this knowing. Obviously, it wasn't till the right time, but I created it to what I needed and what I would have needed in a process I would need it. And so, yeah, that is available for anyone that does want it. And it is one of my favorite things to do with people because it's the empowerment of the true self, is the remembering, the cellular remembrance and the reintegration of the true self and of the abilities of that version of self. Like you can do this in your own, you can do this on your own time. It's not, you don't have to do it through my workshop, but I just made it easier for the human to understand and process because that's kind of my job. Go through something, experience it, and I'm like, okay, let's package this up and help other people go
Yep.
through it in that
Yep.
way.
Yep.
And
Yep. Yep. I get it.
that's why, like me and it's so similar in the way that we work, Z. And
Yep.
so, yeah, I think it's I think it was important. And for me, without doing that, I would have been very lost. So, yeah, find your little true self, find that little warrior within if you are struggling with that. Because
Yeah.
with when you empower into that version of self, nothing can keep you down. It's like, hey, let's go, babes. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah, no. I think the biggest message, and I'm glad this is coming up, honestly. You never know what these are going to pop out to be. I want to say,
Mm-hmm.
like, when I was in that period, and, and sometimes I go into places with people and I end up being the only one left because that, like, to me, it was, I enjoyed it. It wasn't something that was scary to me. It was more something like,
Yeah.
okay, this is like what I'm doing. I already know what I'm doing with that. But for those of you
Mm-hmm.
who are wanting to do that, like, it's, like a permission for yourself to understand that you're not alone in it. I think at that time when I was doing so much of it, I did feel alone. It really felt like,
Yeah, I did.
I didn't have a whole lot of people to talk to, though I did have people to talk to that were really close, and I appreciated that. It's not like something that it felt more like a secret than anything else. And I think that's maybe what's popping out in my voice right now is like, this is an aspect of me and my truth that I did do.
Mm.
I'm not scared of it. I'm
Yeah.
owning it. And in so giving myself permission and anybody else who wants to step up into a space like that, some permission to explore it for yourself.
Yep. Yep. I would definitely recommend learning grounding, protection, calling in your guides. I work a lot with Archangel Michael in this kind of work.
Yep.
So if I ever feel the need for backup, Archangel Michael's like, I got this. Call me in, girl. Tag me. He's like my little tag team partner of this. Like, we're ready. And I actually found the most beautiful bronze statue of Archangel Michael, his big wings and his big sword, standing on a demon in a charity shop. So I bought it, and it's now on my altar. And so that was like a real permission for me to have that support and display it in my home, to know that this is allowed. You're allowed to have these things. And also, like you say, when I've done these things, I've also enjoyed it because I've learned that not all the lower things are always this horrible, nasty, horrible thing. Like sometimes they're misunderstood, sometimes they're working for someone else's hierarchy, sometimes their souls are being used in other ways, and blah 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 blah. So there is a whole new world of understanding that you gain from doing this work, and it is a really big reflection. And I'm glad we have spoke about it tonight, because it's important not to hide it, and it's important to know that if you are someone that does do this work, a lot of the time other people's shadows will be projected onto you, and so people will call you the problem, say that you're the issue, you're this, you're that, da, 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 da. People might fall out with you a lot, friends, family, and project things onto you, but it's usually because you're observing their shadow and you're projecting that energy back to them as a mirror, and so they can see that, and they're not always comfortable with that. And so I think sometimes it's to remember that it's not you that's the problem. You're not necessarily doing anything wrong by just being yourself, and you sometimes are reflecting the inner stuff that they need to work on.
Right, right. It's just a frequency being carried. Man,
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's like the first thing to know if you're going into that is that people are going to project all this stuff and it has nothing to do with you. You're just holding a
Yeah.
solid mirror to their stuff. And it
Yeah.
does, at least for me, it's meant several times, like, leaving groups fast. People leave real fast because honestly, you're just there to bum one aspect of a shadow and then it leaves. So
Yeah.
it's being very strong and centered in yourself and knowing that like you're gonna walk that path or however you want to say it, then things are gonna fly up. And it's
Mm-hmm.
for yours to know your truth in that so much so that you know what is yours and what isn't.
Yeah. And not to feel sad and lonely, because sometimes you can kind of feel like, oh, I thought that one was here to stay. And then they don't,
Yep.
and so it's kind of like, oh, damn, just like you say, not take it personally, just take it as a thank you and goodbye. Whatever the saying is, upon a hono. I love you. I thank you. I forgive you. Whatever imajigi is, you get my vibe.
Yep.
Doing all that lovely things,
Imaging
having
stand on
the
you.
awareness. Yeah, I love you. Thanks. Off you go. See you later. I'll do it in
Yep.
Yorkshire because that
Yep.
feels better to me. But
It's
yeah,
really funny what, I have to keep my body in very, very non-attachment phase because I never know who's gonna just pop. Oh, that was all that was there for. 2 seconds. Oh,
yeah.
all
And
I
I struggle with that because I'm a deeply emotional attachment. I'm like, let me love you. And so it's not good for me because I have to really detach them love words. But I'm learning over the years. I'm getting better.
Yep, yeah.
But yeah, what a wonderful session tonight. I know you have to get going. So I will not keep us forever because I know we could sit talking all night long.
For
But
sure.
it's been really wonderful and I've truly enjoyed it. I always love getting on with it, even when I'm not feeling wonderful inside.
Yeah, I enjoy that facet. Actually, for both of us. We're both pretty honest about
Mhm.
how we're feeling in situations. So so
Exactly.
thank you,
Exactly.
everybody. Just a little recap of this is mostly just giving yourself permission to be yourself and speak your truth. Speak up for yourself, be in whatever aspect that you are in, and knowing too that moving through these processes, I hear this a lot, and this is what I want to come back to is like we think that moving through either a spiritual phase or ascension phase is going to be so much enlightenment that we're going to stay in these massive butterfly stages for a long time. I'm not saying that's not true. You can. This is infinite possibilities. Also, too, knowing an expansion of consciousness, you're also opening up the space and container for more of those processes to work themselves through at a higher level of intensity.
My higher self signed me up for way too much than I can handle right now. She better back the fuck up because I'm not happy about it.
Stop! God damn it.
I'm telling my higher self, I'm like, sit the fuck down. Have a break for a little bit when you chill out down here.
Pretty much.
And on that note,
Yep, yep. I've had to do that too. I'm like, you guys, for real, for real. I'm gonna.
honestly, I'm not happy about this right now and I need a vacation, please. That'd be nice.
I need a
Hopefully.
vacation, and then you end up at a Masonic temple, and you're like, what?
Yeah, like, no, I did not say a work vacation. I said a vacation. And they're like, you cannot go on vacation without working. But yeah, I will not give you the inner workings of me and my team because, like I said, I think I'll get reported to the local mental health facility. So we're probably best not.
All right, everybody. We love you so much. We
Hi,
appreciate
guys.
you, and we'll see you next time.
Bye bye.